I need you to understand something before I even start telling you what happened on First Take this morning. I've been making content for a long time. I've covered hundreds of rumors. I've broken down dozens of potential trades and signings and free agency scenarios. And in all that time, I've developed a pretty good sense for when something is real versus when it's just media noise designed to fill airtime and generate clicks. What happened this morning was real as it gets. Because in the middle of a standard Lakers segment about their playoff outlook and the devastating injuries to Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, the production team at First Take cut away from the studio. Mid-conversation, Stephen A. Smith was literally in the middle of a sentence about whether LeBron James can carry this team through a playoff series when the director split the screen, and suddenly Dave McMenamin, ESPN's longtime Lakers beat reporter, appeared on a live feed from outside the Lakers' El Segundo training facility, and the expression on his face, the urgency in his voice, the careful precision of every word he chose told me immediately that this was not a routine check-in. Something was happening inside that building that the basketball world was not yet supposed to know about. And by the time McMenamin finished his 90-second report, by the time the camera cut back to Stephen A. and Shannon in the studio, the entire trajectory of the show had changed. The entire trajectory of the Lakers offseason might have changed, because every piece of evidence McMenamin described pointed in one unmistakable direction. Cam Thomas is becoming a Los Angeles Laker. And it might be happening right now. Hey, what's up everyone? Real quick before we get into everything, that like button is literally what determines if this reaches hundreds or thousands of fans. Takes 1 second, but makes a huge impact on the channel's growth. Just smash that like button right now. It's the easiest thing you can do, but honestly the biggest way to support this content. Every single like pushes this further, so hit it now. Let me take you through exactly what McMenamin said, because every detail matters. He opened by saying he had been at the Lakers facility since early morning, covering the team's preparations for their remaining regular season games. Standard end of season stuff. Players getting treatment, coaches holding meetings. Nothing unusual, but approximately 45 minutes before the live feed, things changed. He said additional vehicles began arriving at the facility, not player vehicles. Not coaching staff vehicles. Vehicles he associated with agents and representatives. Cars he recognized from previous major transactions. He said he noticed people entering the building through the executive entrance who he didn't recognize as regular Lakers personnel. He said the security presence at the facility entrance appeared heightened, with additional checks on credentials that aren't typical for a routine practice day. And most tellingly, he said that when he reached out to his contacts inside the organization for any kind of comment or context about the unusual activity, he was met with total silence. Every text unanswered, every call going to voicemail, every source who normally responds within minutes suddenly going dark. And McMenamin said, with the measured conviction of a reporter who has covered this team for over a decade and knows exactly what organizational silence means. In my experience covering the Lakers, this kind of communication blackout only happens when a significant transaction is being finalized. I cannot confirm the specifics of what's happening inside this building right now. But based on everything I'm seeing, the vehicle activity, the agent presence, the front office urgency, the information lockdown, and based on conversations I've had with people around the league over the past several days, all evidence points toward the Lakers finalizing an agreement to acquire Cam Thomas. And based on the pace of activity I'm witnessing, it could be completed within hours. The studio went absolutely electric. Stephen A's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowed. He leaned forward in his chair with the intensity of a man who's processing something enormous in real time. Shannon Sharpe sat perfectly still for about 3 seconds, which for Shannon is an eternity, and then slowly nodded his head, and Molly immediately shifted the entire direction of the show, pivoting away from whatever segment they had planned to focus exclusively on what was unfolding in El Segundo. Stephen A spoke first, and his reaction was immediate, visceral, and enthusiastic. He stood up. He actually stood up from his chair, and he pointed at the camera and said, if this is real, and I believe Dave McMenamin, because he has never steered us wrong on Lakers information, this changes everything for Los Angeles. This is the move that gives LeBron James what he's been desperate for, which is somebody else who can score the basketball, somebody who can create his own shot, somebody who can take the pressure off LeBron in the fourth quarter. Somebody who can go get a bucket when the offense stalls and the shot clock is winding down, and everybody in the building knows the Lakers need a score. Cam Thomas is that somebody. He's one of the most gifted pure scorers in the entire National Basketball Association. He can get a bucket against anybody, anywhere, at any time. And for a Lakers team that's about to go into the playoffs without Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, adding that kind of instant offense isn't just nice to have. It's survival, and Stephen A. went deep on the basketball need, which I thought was incredibly well articulated. He said the Lakers' biggest problem right now, beyond the injuries, is a fundamental lack of shot creation depth. When LeBron sits, nobody can create offense. When the half-court offense stalls, nobody can break down a defense one-on-one and create a quality look. The supporting cast, players like Jake LaRavia, Rui Hachimura, DeAndre Ayton, they're all solid complementary pieces. But none of them are primary shot creators. None of them can take the ball, go one-on-one against a set defense, and consistently manufacture a good shot. And in the playoffs, when defenses tighten and schemes get more sophisticated, you absolutely must have multiple players who can create their own shot. The Lakers right now have LeBron, and that's it. LeBron at 41 cannot be the sole creator for 48 minutes in a 7-game playoff series. He needs help. And Cam Thomas is the purest form of scoring help available. Shannon's reaction was different, not negative, but significantly more cautious. He said, "Stephen A., I don't disagree that the Lakers need scoring. That's obvious. What I want to understand is how Cam Thomas fits into the way this team plays. Because the Lakers under JJ Redick have been trying to build an offense that moves the ball, that creates advantages through passing and cutting and player movement." And Cam Thomas, let's be honest, is a player who has historically been a ball stopper. He catches the ball and the offense stops. He goes into isolation mode. He puts the ball on the floor and tries to score one-on-one. And while he's really good at it, it can kill the rhythm of an offense that's trying to play the right way. So my question isn't whether Cam Thomas can score. We all know he can score. My question is whether his scoring comes at the expense of everything else the Lakers have been trying to build offensively. And that launched a debate between Stephen A. and Shannon. That was one of the best basketball discussions I've heard on that show all season, because both of them were right about different things, and the tension between their positions is exactly the tension that the Lakers front office has to navigate if they're gonna make this work. Stephen A. countered Shannon's concern by making a point about the Lakers' current reality versus their aspirational identity. He said, "Shannon, I hear you about ball movement and playing the right way, and in a perfect world with Luka and Reeves healthy, yes, the Lakers can afford to prioritize system basketball, but we don't live in a perfect world. Luka is out, Reeves is out, and when your two primary creators are gone, the system doesn't matter because there's nobody to execute it. You know what matters? Having somebody who can put the ball in the basket, period. End of sentence. When you're in the fourth quarter of a playoff game and the score is tied and you need a bucket, you don't need ball movement. You need a bucket getter. You need somebody who can take the ball, create separation, and score. And there might not be a better bucket getter in the NBA right now than Cam Thomas. And he backed it up with numbers that I thought were compelling. He cited Thomas's scoring averages, his ability to score in bunches, his performances where he's dropped 30, 40, even 50 points against NBA defenses. He talked about Thomas's ability to score from all three levels, at the rim, from mid-range, and from three, which makes him almost impossible to scheme against because you can't take away one area of the floor and feel comfortable. He can score from everywhere. And Stephen A. made the point that in moments where the Lakers are struggling to generate offense, where the half court has broken down and the shot clock is under 10 seconds, Thomas's ability to create something out of nothing is literally the difference between a missed shot and a made bucket. And over the course of a playoff series, those made buckets in scramble situations add up to wins. Shannon came back with the defensive concern, and I have to say, his argument was legitimate and important. He said, "Stephen A., I don't dispute anything you said about Cam Thomas's scoring ability. He can score. We all know that, but basketball is played on two ends of the floor, and Cam Thomas on the defensive end is a problem. He doesn't fight through screens. He doesn't close out on shooters with urgency. He doesn't communicate defensively." And for a Lakers team that has been trying to build their identity around defense, especially with LeBron needing to conserve energy on the offensive end, you're now introducing a player who's going to force the defense to compensate for his weaknesses. And in the playoffs, against teams like Houston or Oklahoma City that have multiple ball handlers and multiple creators, having a defensive liability on the floor is something the other team is going to exploit relentlessly. My personal analysis on the defensive concern. Shannon is right that Thomas isn't a plus defender, but I think the concern is manageable for several reasons. First, the Lakers already have defensive stoppers on the roster. LeBron, even at his age, can still lock in defensively in short bursts. Anthony Davis is an all-world defensive anchor. Marcus Smart is one of the best defensive guards in the league. If Thomas is surrounded by those defenders, his individual defensive shortcomings become less impactful because the team can scheme around him. They can hide him on the least dangerous offensive player. They can use AD as a help defender behind Thomas when his man gets past him. They can rotate Smart to Thomas's assignment in critical defensive possessions. The infrastructure is there to mitigate Thomas's defensive weaknesses. It's not ideal, but it's workable. Second, and I think this is the more important point, the Lakers' offensive problems right now are more threatening to their playoff survival than their defensive problems. The defense has been competitive all season. It's held up even without Luka and Reeves. The offense is what's been cratering. They were minus 25 per 100 possessions in 500 possessions when LeBron, Luka, and Reeves are all off the floor. That's catastrophic. That's, you're getting swept in the first round, catastrophic. And Cam Thomas directly addresses that offensive catastrophe by providing a level of shot creation and scoring that simply doesn't exist anywhere else on this roster. And then there's the LeBron factor, which I think is the most important consideration of all. LeBron James at 41 is still one of the best players in the world, but he's 41. He can't carry the offensive load for an entire playoff series the way he could when he was 30. He needs possessions off. He needs moments where he can catch his breath, where he can conserve energy, where someone else handles the scoring responsibility for 2 or 3 minutes, so that when it matters most, when the game is on the line in the fourth quarter, LeBron is fresh. Cam Thomas provides those moments. Thomas comes in, scores 8 points in 4 minutes, gives LeBron a breather, and then LeBron comes back in the fourth quarter with fresh legs and fresh energy to close the game. That partnership, that ability to share the scoring burden could be the difference between LeBron wearing down in Game 5 and LeBron looking like 2016 LeBron in Game 7. I also want to talk about what Thomas does for the Lakers bench, because this is where I think the impact could be most dramatic. The Lakers' bench scoring has been one of the worst in the NBA this season. When the starters sit, the offense dies. And in the playoffs, when rotations are shortened and bench minutes are fewer but more critical, having someone who can come off the bench and immediately inject scoring into the game is invaluable. Think about the great sixth men in NBA history. Think about Jamal Crawford. Think about Lou Williams. Think about Manu Ginobili. Those players changed the complexion of games because they provided instant offense when the starters needed rest. Cam Thomas in that sixth-man role could be the Lakers version of that. He checks in, he immediately looks to score, he makes the defense account for a legitimate scoring threat even when the starters are on the bench, and that consistent offensive production from the bench is what separates teams that make deep playoff runs from teams that get bounced in the first round. Now, let me address the McMenamin report one more time because I think the on-the-ground details he described are worth revisiting in the context of everything we've discussed. The agent vehicles, the front office urgency, the communication blackout, all of those things together paint a picture of an organization that is in the final stages of completing a major transaction. The Lakers don't go into information lockdown mode for routine moves. They don't have extra security at the door for minor signings. They don't have agents showing up at the facility at odd hours for standard business. This is significant. This is a move that the Lakers believe can change their playoff trajectory. And based on everything McMenamin described, it's happening right now. So here's where I stand after processing everything. The McMenamin report, the Stephen A. argument about offensive necessity, Shannon's legitimate defensive concerns. My own analysis of the basketball fit. I believe Cam Thomas to the Lakers is the right move at the right time. Not a perfect move, not a risk-free move, but the right move given the circumstances. The Lakers are heading into the playoffs with their two best offensive players either out or questionable. They need scoring, they need shot creation, they need someone who can create offense independently when the system breaks down. Cam Thomas provides all of that. Yes, the defense is a concern, but the offense without Thomas is a bigger concern. And sometimes in the NBA, you have to prioritize solving your biggest problem even if the solution creates smaller problems elsewhere. Lakers fans, stay locked in. Based on what McMenamin is reporting from El Segundo, this could become official at any moment. Subscribe, drop your thoughts in the comments, and get ready because the Lakers' playoff push might have just gotten a massive injection of scoring firepower.